Okay, we're getting ready today for our broadcast. Welcome, one and all. Getting started in the moment. Woo-hoo, what a day. Alright, today is a more interesting setup that I put together. Just getting things together for our regular broadcast and make things a little more interesting for all our folks out there. So let's get started today. Again, this is an audio only broadcast in the morning. Don't need to have it really that way, but we'll get into the habit of doing these podcast type of productions. And what are they really? To give you the nature of them, is just me getting things going in the morning, and just to force a video or a broadcast every morning. It's not clockwork, but it's just getting things done. So getting to work, for example, it's simple enough. So as I'm setting things up right now, I'm actually still setting the broadcast up as we're already streaming. I'm just getting my texting application here up and running, and we are now already set to go and transcribing. Okay, so what's happening today? Today, Tuesday, May 12th. Let's take a few of the insights from our emails. So we get interesting news coming in frequently. We have 14 countries. This is from Politics Select Business Insider. And what you'll see there when you go, you might find the 14 countries that are paying their workers during quarantine and how they compare to America's $1,200 stimulus checks. And so there's now comparing how these other governments are, what they're doing, and how they're helping their citizenry to, I guess, get by in this times of pandemic. Now we start comparing. And what is the point in doing that? These other countries, I heard someone compare from Malaysia. They're in Kuala Lumpur, and they're in Asia, and they're making comparisons with the U.S. I mean, really, are these countries now on par with the U.S., and so now we can compare? Aren't we really comparing apples and oranges? If you come to think about it, even within the United States, you cannot fairly compare one state against the other. I mean, there's different states. Florida is a much different type of lifestyle than New York City, for example. You know, the reason there are so many people who have been impacted by the coronavirus in New York City as opposed to those in Orlando, Florida, for example. I mean, these are two different animals, simply. So it's kind of unfair, and it could lead to disingenuosity. Not that we are surprised about it. Bill Gates said he warned Trump about the dangers of a pandemic in December of 2016 before he took office. And now we have Bill Gates. It's a prophet, modern day prophet, as we see. And so it's an alarming thing that Bill Gates warned Trump in December 2016. As far as I remember, my Bible has 2,000 years at least on it from its telling the world that we were going to have pandemics in the future. So I think he just came late to the party, don't you think? Ivanka Trump's personal assistant has reportedly tested positive for the coronavirus. And so it just means that Ivanka and husband Jared Kushner are going to have to, keep themselves separate, and at least for 2 weeks, is to clear up any possible contamination, right? And that's basically what's on par. You have one of Trump's President Trump's security detail, I believe, and someone working at the White House staffing, also that tested positive. Again, they would need to isolate themselves, and Trump has an individualized what do you call a health blanket around him. It's a figurative term that I'm using. Obviously, they have their own guidelines for who can be immediately around President Trump, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sure that's going on. They did mention a few things, not in particular regard to that, but if you connect the dots, you'll realize that the president is very well protected. Trump's incompetent response, it says here, to the U.S. coronavirus outbreak is helping China look good. Again, I mean, what's the basis of incompetence? Does anyone really think that anyone could have done it better, really? And is that including with impeachment, holding things up from December through January? That's really interesting. I would like to know who exactly would have done things better than President Trump, with given all of the obstacles that the Democrats and whatnot have placed in his path. I would really like to see that. And as far as I can see, there's no one in the world that has done anything close to what Trump has done. Simply, I don't. I think that's quite off basis. It's one of those news things that you really have to, you know, take with a grain of salt. U.S. takes away anti-missile system that guarded oil facilities from Saudi Arabia, presumably over oil production disputes. Again, presumably. It says that it has to do with President Trump saying this has nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. This has to do with other countries, frankly, much more. And so again, the lay people, the people who are not in the driver's seat, I just have to stop trying to drive and let the driver drive. Isn't that a pesty thing? The people have to think, how it is to try to drive a car and have other people telling you, don't do this, don't right, no, you're going too fast, you're going too. It's a total, the driver has a perspective that no one else in the car could possibly have. If you guys drive cars, you know what I'm talking about. If you ever driven through a storm, then you particularly know what I'm talking about. And if you ever driven through a storm with other people in the car, especially some other ladies, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. So this makes sense to a few people because a fewer people have actually kept driving their cars during a terrible storm and know the things that I'm talking about right now and understand it. They just simply let the foreign policy be taken care of those that know what's going on. There's things that the president knows that's going on that no one else knows is going on. So especially the press, and all of us other Americans, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Biden hinted that he could name some cabinet members before the election. It says that that could be a mistake. It is an unprecedented move that research suggests has little upside and a good chance of backfiring. This issue with Biden is fascinating. It's very fascinating. It's interesting because of what the Democrats. I mean, what are they thinking with Biden? And actually, it's going to be an interesting election this time round. Is it really Biden? Is Biden really running for the president of the United States, for the office of president of the United States? Is that really what the Democratic Party is going to be promoting, or will they be promoting the future president if something happens with Biden? Is that going to be the real election issue this time round? I mean, uh, are they really planning on Biden able being able to survive the next 4 years in office? If that's indeed what's going to happen, I just think there's something fishy about what the DNC is doing, how they're advising Biden. It seems a little strange, but more on that in future broadcasts. States face an economic death spiral from coronavirus. So, yeah, that's a good question. Should the states open up now? Should we be opening up? Should we stay closed? A lot of people have different opinions on that. But reality is that either we can maintain our country as close to what it was before, or maybe most people just want it changed. That's a conversation that has to be had. Do you want the United States to be different? Do you want to change, start all over again, and do something different? And I know this, that a lot of people would say yes recklessly. And you would ask them with what, and they would have to admit they don't know. Some of them will even say, frankly, and without any thought of it, that they don't care what, as long as it would be different. So, does this make sense? Is this something people want to do? That's a question that needs to be asked and visited. Let's see what else we have in Business Insider under Strategy Select. We have Goldman Sachs is going through a huge transformation under CEO David Solomon. The bank has big consumer ambitions. So it's transforming its image. Now, this is the reality, folks. I wanted to be talking about this for some time now. I'm going to dedicate some of my business broadcast on the following facts. And the following fact is this: things have already changed. There's going to be a necessity forced upon all businesses that survive and actually reopen now. You're going to have to change the way you're doing business. Business will have to change simply because this is not the end of this deal. It is not the end. Pandemics are going to come, and the future things may even become worse than this. So how is business going to recover? How should business help society, if anything, be better prepared for future pandemics? How can they be better cushioned businesses, so that they are less impacted by needs for shutting down the government and society for a couple of months? That has to be discussed, and strategies, methods, forms have to be implemented as soon as they can get together and have these meetings, because you just can't return back to normal. Going back to normal is asking for trouble. It's asking for trouble. So I think that businesses need to start thinking differently. They need to start thinking strategically, and those that are retail, all of them, some degree, but those that are that people heavily rely on for their day-to-day survival, they really need to be rethinking how they ensure that the issues that came up in this pandemic event, those problems that ensure that came from unexpected shortages, runs on certain items, and supply chain disruptions, even if they weren't many. Future pandemics may very well involve supply chain issues. So the businesses and retail operations really need to focus in on being loyal to their customer base, which is the population. And the populations their customers depend that when things are going wrong, they depend on their local stores to, to have their back. I think it's the minimum we should be looking for. I think you retail purchases out there, you should insist on shopping at retailers who announce their plans for, keeping making sure there's inventory and supply chain issues and things like that. I think stores that communicate with their communities, their plans in case of emergencies in the future, I think those are the stores that you guys should patronize. You should let them know, hey, we've been faithful to you before the pandemic. A lot of things happen now. We're not going to put up with anything in the future. You guys are slacking. So this is, we're waiting to hear what you guys have initiated, what you guys are, making happen within your corporate structure and delivery systems to make sure that the moment something happens in the future, we can depend on you. And then I think the American population and any retail, any purchaser, consumer, any place in the world, then you should do your shopping. You let them know, I'm only going to shop. I'm going to put my money in retail operations that are going to be there for me when things go bad. And I think that's the minimum we should expect and demand from where we shop. So I would suggest that people start talking about that and start letting your retail outlets know that. The Job Hunters Toolkit, the ultimate tips, tricks, and resources for finding your dream job during the pandemic and beyond. Right now, it's time to get moving if you're looking for a job. In positioning yourself strategically, jobs are expected, and I think they're psyching everyone up that they would be limited. The businesses are allowing themselves to recover slowly, and so they're not going to hire everyone off, right off at the starting gate. So obviously, positions are going to be more scarce and more talent, and being able to present your talent is going to be of utmost importance. That article you can find again. We're at Business Insider today. That's something that's available right now. So head on over there and look for the Job Hunters Toolkit. Experts say that when offices reopen, Experts say that when offices reopen, group work areas might replace the C's and C's of single desks, while workers stay home for individual tasks. And they have an article there that shows you here's what the new open office would look like. Basically, they're looking to just have open spaces. It seems like a toning down of the corporate workspace. Um, That's what it looks like. It looks like more like a working area, an open area. There's not too much fanfare. A simple desk and chair and computer terminal, and there's not much all of anything else in the place. So it's like a bare bones type of, just the essentials. And basically, what does that mean? It tends to give you the feeling that businesses and workplace areas or workplaces are at that zone between, what can we say? It's like that uneasy area before everything goes digital. You know what I mean? Like there'll be no need for workers at all. That type of thing. It's like most of this stuff is being handled off site anyhow. Is being handled in the cloud, and we just have a need for a few button pushes here. I guess some humanized monitoring. That's what it tends to give you the idea that the business world is heading towards a total artificial intelligence, and humans simply just monitoring and that's it, and things running basically on their own. That's the feeling you get when you look at this picture at with this article. That's an article again on Business Insider. Salesforce's free online learning platform could create a pipeline for tech jobs amid record unemployment and help the company retain customers during this crisis. And so that's an article there, also interesting. And they have the free online learning platform, which is interesting for anyone in education or looking for education to take a look at and see what you can get from there. Here's a full guide to reopening your workplace, according to top companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Starbucks. This is another good topic to look into, and that is, how should a company be reopening? If you're going back to your company, if you own a business, how should that be? How should the company be running things? What should be the policies to maintain healthy environments and to catch? Obviously, you can monitor headaches and things, fevers when people come in, and then practice. Yeah, I get what you call it, social distancing still in the workplace, or a workplace distancing, employee distancing. I think that's something that needs to be looked into. Teaching employees how to maintain clean surfaces in the workplace, the hands, having frequent hand sanitizer always at their desks and things of that nature. I think there's a lot of things that need to be done within the workplace. Even when we go shopping, the stores need to maintain that the crowds, preventing crowds from coming in, even assigning certain, I guess, hours and days to certain groups, things like of that nature on those type of businesses that are very heavily trafficked. There's a lot of things to think about. But we are going to have to deal with this as soon as possible. The stores and whatnot cannot continue to operate. I think that's one of our weakest part of society right now is our shopping habits and work habits and social habits. That's where United States is weakest, right? Where people are vulnerable. And so I think we need to address that as soon as possible. Next item, 9 startups helping moms get back to work after having kids. Another interesting article. Most of these startups are mom founded, and they're all helping mothers deal with the stress and anxiety of re-entering the workforce. So again, that's another uh, timely article for times such as these. Um, Another item, leading from home. Every guide and manager needs to lead their remote team success. A lot of you guys and gals having to lead teams. Some of you are working on projects. This is an article going over those things that are helpful to keeping things humming, keeping employees happy, healthy, and productive while remote. Another item, fraud related to small business loans is on the rise, and the federal government is on high alert. Here's how to protect yourself in case of an audit or investigation. Again, this article on this in Business Insider. The U.S. is currently in one of the most fraud rich environments in history. Experts say to document everything and give back the funds if concerned. We heard a few reports of a few big companies receiving these funds, and they volunteered to return them. So again, you have to be careful. This is not just free money being given away. It's you need to be in certain qualifying situations. Again, for a lot of folks, you're gonna have to face the music. Businesses, you're gonna have to decide to just shut down and move on to something else. Once this thing clears, you should be thinking or should have in mind what you're going to do next. Um, Sometimes when bad things happen like this, sometimes it's good. It really is. I think most times it's good. It's always good to do something new. The bottom line. So it doesn't matter. I think we all lost things. I'm in my own businesses. We've had great losses. We had a 2020 seminar business which had to be totally scrapped. And that seminar business is a multi-million dollar producer, and we just had to scrap the whole thing. That's for me. It was a big loss in that sense. But you know what? It's always a good thing to just revamp and reset. In my case, the problem was that I only offered live events. So all they did for us was to rethink it and do the digital, the online, the virtual events. So that's what we're doing now. So it's our $1 million business delay. It's a delay more than a loss for us. But for some other people and some other businesses, it may not be that easy. Um, but you just gotta find a different way or do something else. There's other losses. A lot of people gotta lose their websites. They losing some other business ideas that they were building. And a lot of, like I said, I can talk to a lot of these things because I do a lot of business. I have a lot of business ideas, and we've created a lot of business kits that we promote. And so I can see there are a few of these things that I will have to revamp to make harden, as you will, for future pandemics, future emergencies. Our restaurant networking business also had good qualities. It didn't suffer, in the sense that we were discussing here, but it has gained um, a lot of attention and focus on the good qualities that we have in our network, and it's going to definitely determine a few changes in some of our brands to make them pandemic proof in the future. When I say pandemic proof, I mean that the business can go from a regular restaurant type of format when things are good, and can quickly change over into a different format, still cooking up the meals. Uh, and since the network provides for the facility for it, but the kitchen and the staffers have to be ready for that type of changeover on a fly, on the fly, when something starts happening. So those things we have to sit down now and to set into into a firm strategy, and when we build out the restaurants, to have certain things prepared and the operation ready. Either way, streamline it so that it operates under regular conditions and continues to operate under lockdowns and stuff like that. So that's what this pandemic thing has caused, at least us in our where it deals with the restaurant brands that we have and the restaurant networking businesses that we have. So, but again, like I said, these are good things. They're not bad things. What happened happened. Spilled milk. Can't cry over that. You have to keep moving. But we could always make improvement. We could always do things that make us stronger in the future. So, getting back to the original reason we went into this, the issue is, what are we going to do? And the simple thing. Should we lock everything up and should we all just stay home? And I'm of the position that we shouldn't. We should continue. We should open things up slowly with prudence, of course, but make those changes as soon as a company has set in place its protections and safety for the public and their employees, et cetera, then there's no reason why the company cannot reopen for business. That's my personal opinion. I think that should be the what the governors require in local jurisdictions, that the company display and show and announce their protective what do you call it, policies, and give the employees training, and prepare the their customers for engaging the company in a safe way. And so that's what needs to happen. Once they show that, then they should be able to reopen, and things can go back as normal as it can. Obviously, if you have a limitation on people walking into your restaurant, for example, it's not going to be normal as usual, but at least business can be had again. If they were part of our network, it would go easier for them, even under a restricted restaurant client number. Our restaurants will still be able to do business because of the other things that we had before the pandemic in place already. And these are the things that I was mentioning before, that simply all we have to do really is just to formalize these other strategies as part of each and every branding, and just make it as simple to turn on or to go full speed into a mode. I think that's the best way to describe it. What we have is the ability to change the mode of a restaurant on the fly. That's what we had, not modally before, but now we can do that. We can just take those things that we already had and change them into modes, and have our restaurants ready to go and ready to make changes on it in an instant. All right, and so that's what's going on Business Insider. We have some Twitter things going on. And what we see on Twitter is a Steak and Shake permanently closing 57 restaurants amid a dismal first quarter. Well, of course, the the first quarter is the pandemic quarter, isn't it? It really took out some people and it's taking out some businesses. Again, like I said, if the Steak and Shake was just holding on barely, it's like I said, what was hanging on barely should just go. It's time to go. It's going to be the time for things that weren't really making money. Anything that wasn't producing money for you, just let it go. That's it. And it's the best time to do that, because no one's gonna complain or criticize you for letting this or that go. I mean, there's a pandemic. What do you expect? So I think a lot of us are holding on to things that aren't producing money for you. And like you said, you don't want to let go of this. You want to keep trying. As entrepreneurs, you want to keep going. You know what? Now's the time to back out of it and save face. No one's going to criticize you. And people ask, well, why is this? Why did you weren't successful at this business? And, it's that coronavirus thing. I mean, no, who can survive it? And you can always point to Steak and Shake. I mean, they had to close 57 restaurants. So that's it. This is the time that, listen, guys, just let it go. There are things right now, there are things that you can see around you that are hot. They are, they're prospering, or they show signs of strength. And now and in the future, I think you guys need to look at those things and position yourselves rather than wasting time in what wasn't working. Position yourselves in something that is already working and will assuredly be strong in the future. So I would drop the things that waste your time, waste your money, and get into the things that are making money and will be only stronger and grow in the future. Do that for yourself. All right. Let's see. There's a new study also showing that the virus death toll in New York City was actually worse, or is worse than officially tallied. That's amazing because up to now we've been hearing that they have been counting as coronavirus deaths. People who die in a car accident or have some other problem disease, and simply they've been adding them to the tally. Now we get an opposite uh, study result saying that actually they haven't been counting all of the death toll of the virus. It says here that New York City's death toll from the coronavirus may be, in fact, thousands of fatalities worse than the official tally kept. So that should be an interesting read. That again is from ABC 7 New York, and that is from a Twitter tweet by the same. Okay, and other than that, we have the two final references here for Twitter have two crazy occurrences happening. California inmates try to infect themselves. Yeah, we got a already population trying to infect themselves with the coronavirus. I guess when you're trapped and have nowhere to go, I guess death is appealing. We can ask Jeff Epstein about that. Now, and also there's a subway driver was attacked with a knife. New York again. This is in New York City. Uh, Subway driver. I mean, yeah, if the coronavirus doesn't kill you, somebody most definitely will. Apparently, it's not enough that we have these viruses around, but we need, people have to come and kill you. All right. So, what else is happening in the news today? This morning, we have a Senate hearing. Fauci is to warn of needless suffering and death. Is it needless suffering and death? Well, again, what does this mean? Needless suffering and death. This is a doctor saying they took a Hippocratic oath to save lives. It doesn't matter. They don't care. Doctors send you home and they tell you do not work. You don't work. They don't care that you can't pay the rent. They don't have to care about that. They don't care that you have kids in the house that need milk and need food. They don't have to care about that. People need to understand something. Doctors have one focus, and that is to cure the patient. That's it. They don't care about anything else. If the patient was driving a car 100 miles per hour, and they had to stop pressing on the gas and definitely not touch the brake pedal, the doctor would tell them that. They don't care. Well, but the car's going to crash. The car is going to. The doctor wouldn't care about that because his his first requirement, his first goal is to keep the patient, from their sickness or from the pain of what they're feeling. So they don't care about anything else that collapses around them. So again, this when you hear this, that Fauci is giving these warnings, what do you expect? People not understanding. Don't you understand doctors yet? I mean, it should be clear. Doctors just worry about one thing, and that's the health of their client. Right now, Fauci is the client is the population of the United States. All he cares about is their health need. That's it. He's not concerned, and he's not supposed to be concerned with the economy. He is not concerned with the political fallout of everyone staying home. He is not concerned with, nor does he have to be, mind you, that the United States will collapse into whatever communism, into prehistoric age. That's not his concern. Now, it could be the result of his advice, but again, that's not his concern. He's Dr. Fauci is a successful doctor if the United States becomes a caveman society. Once again, no machinery, no technology. Everything went like the age, the Planet of the Apes. Everything of modern society has gone to waste. However, the people are healthy. That is, and I'm not making fun of Dr. Fauci. You have to understand. That's a respectful outcome of his medical and health concern and his expertise. That is what he's supposed to do. He make us healthy, keep the United States healthy, return us to a healthy state. Okay? So again, it doesn't matter if we become cavemen. You have to understand that. However, now we have other professionals, other experts that do care about their job is to make sure we don't become cavemen. So this is just simply one person doing a job and another person doing their job as well, which and the two contradict each other. Okay, so in between, what should happen? Who should win? It's always going to be a what do you call that? A melding of the two. Just simply, we can't allow the country to go back to caveman time, and we can't have everyone dying from coronavirus. So, what's happening now is that friction, which people calling probably if they call that friction incompetence, that's really incompetent to call it incompetence. What it is actually a very good, uncomfortable, uneasy state, and it's what it should be. It should be that we take careful steps, uneasy steps. That's good. That's not incompetence. That's not incompetence. That's using your head. You're stuck between two bad places. So it's not incompetence. It's actually being careful. And yeah, you're supposed to be uneasy. It's supposed to look, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you guys are making funny looking steps. You're not sure. You got to be careful. We're walking through a landmine here. But and that's a good analogy, by the way. If you're in a land field, a minefield, what are you going to stay there for eternity? Right? Or are you going to try to make some steps, having some knowledge of where these mines are, and you're going to be very, very careful. You're going to call that person incompetent. That's what the news people are doing, and American people who don't know any better. They're looking at the president. They're looking at the White House. They're looking at government officials, their governors and whatnot, and they look at these look at them. They don't know where to go. They go left, now he's turning right. You're just looking at this. You're not realizing that they are surrounded by mines all around, and they have to be careful. Just simply, folks, be careful individually yourself. Let the politicians be careful in the way they know how, in the best way they can. Let the president be president. He's there for the people, but he's also there for the country. You gotta understand that the people need the country, so that's why he is uneasy. He has to do things to ensure that the country survives. Okay, with its people. A country without people is not a country, and a people without the country is also not a country. Simple. So he has to make sure that both things come out of this as best as possible. Is every no more deaths going to happen? Of course, it cannot be that way. We're going to have more deaths. It's going to happen. It has to be. So let us move on with life. Life is not guaranteed to anyone. Okay, I have friends. I have a friend that died when they were 15. I was 15. Okay, life is not guaranteed to anybody. Life is not guaranteed to anyone. That's as simple as that. Let's move on and let's do what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so we got some things going on with the Supreme Court here. Um, it looks like they're listening to arguments on Trump's financial records. Trump's effort to block tax subpoena meets the Supreme Court he shaped. So that's what's happening now. Colorado restaurant shut down for allowing a sit-down dining. Here we go. Again, we don't know that's from Google, by the way. Google News. You can see that article there. Click on that to see what the details are. But again, people need to be careful. Why should you be in a restaurant and it's not helping you stay safe? Again, people have to use their head. Trump gets testy with Asian American reporter. Did you see this? I saw, I see the news, I see all the press conferences. These reporters they are nasty. They keep hounding. The question was asked before, and they just keep hounding the president unnecessarily. He already answered it, and his response to them was to ask China. Is exactly because they're asking the president for something that China is well qualified to answer, not the president of the United States. Go ask China. I agreed with what he said. It's simple, and it was very clear. So anyway, we have the news reporters, instead of looking for news to report on, they're just looking to bother and to, I guess, to make the president look bad or something like that. Look back to whom? Idiots? That has to be, because it doesn't make him look bad to me. It makes him look better. I'm actually, you see how I'm defensive of the right action he took? It's only going to make it worse for the guys who are against Trump in the November election. Really, it's not going to work. It hasn't worked. It didn't work in 2016. It's not going to work now. Really simple. I don't. People don't just get it. Okay, I mean, you have evidence. It's like science. It's already been proven. IRS says more stimulus checks are on the way, and explain why yours may not be the amount you expected. So people are waiting for payments. Just make sure that your bank information is up to date. Make sure that all of that is okay, and just and wait for it. Now, how are you going to spend the money? That's the question, isn't it? Okay, you guys shouldn't be wasting it. You guys are getting money from left field, and that money should really be used for something you wouldn't do normally that makes you money, that would bring back some money. You should use that really to get a head start in the future economy. Let me tell you another little secret people are not understanding. Things are going to be really different. This restaurants won't be reopening. There's a few restaurants won't be reopening. Now they had customers before. What that means is that there are going to be business opportunities for you to do business, because the previous people competing are not there any longer. They've moved on to other things. So again, it may be your chance to get into the business that you've always wanted to have. You have to think smartly, though, and start preparing, and definitely start using these checks that come in. You don't need a lot of money. You just need to know how to do a lot with a little bit of money. And that's really the secret that you need to learn. What can you use a little bit of your money, this money coming in, how can you use it in the best way to get the maximum return for that money? And that's really what you need to be doing. There's going to be great opportunities to start businesses. So I would advise you guys to look into that as soon as possible. All right, we got the Fed looking into purchasing corporate bond ETFs based on Bitcoin. That's interesting. Bitcoin becoming an important thing, even for the federal government. Coronavirus stranded New Yorkers in paradise. What now? Yeah, I know somebody got stuck on a marvelous island, and how terrible, right? He has all these servants serving him food all this time, again, under the care of the resort. And what a terrible thing, isn't it? Talk about great timing. Um, okay. We have some people talking about the four horsemen in Revelation. Is this part of that thing or not? Well, my personal opinion is that when you read the horseman account, you got to realize that the war is the first. War is number one. It's the first thing to come out. We haven't had that World War yet, so this is not the horseman. This is something else. But in what it is for sure, I can tell you what this is all about right now. This is a warning sign. It's an alert, because I had said this before. I don't want to get religious on you guys. I do religious broadcasting too, but I had said months ago, talk about Bill Gates, right, with his prediction. But I had said months ago that we needed to get ready for some serious catastrophes, from some serious emergencies that will be coming up, and I also warn people that God will be speaking. God will be making Himself, heard. And this is it. This is it. And what is, again, what is the message? The message is, you see, it's not like God is just coming out and just destroying everybody, because He's upset with y'all, not paying attention, not doing the right thing. What is He doing? Look at what He's done. He's given a big, big, big warning, telling you all to prepare. This is why it's a wake up call. That's what this is. He's not going to let all these things happen on this earth without having given y'all the warning. He gave it in the Bible. Not everybody believes in the Bible, but now with this pandemic all over the world, now realize that what God has said in His scripture, now it's a real possibility, isn't it? It's possible. So pay attention. And we should be preparing ourselves, keeping ourselves prepared after this is over. We need to stay alert. That's the key. That's my message for you. Never said I didn't say anything. You want to put me down there next to Bill Gates as the predictor of something, well, then do that. Whatever the story is, you need to stay prepared, because the next time, it's going to be worse than this one was. And if you're not ready, then, shame on you, because you've been warned. Okay, we have this thing with the Ahmaud Arbery. I haven't watched the video, and I'm going to watch it out of to honor, I guess, his memory. To not comment before watching that. I think it's sad that we're still having these issues in this society today. But that's all I want to say about that right now. I don't think. I think that the way the the response is to most of this, I think it's inadequate. I mean, the evidence is there, it's obvious. This is not a thing about attacking racism and all these people in groups start protesting and all that. All of that's been done. I'm trying to make people understand. You guys did all of that. You called this one a racist. You called that one a racist. You made them lose their jobs. You boycotted. You got them out of their news position or their shows or whatever it was. You guys did this already, and here we are. We're still seeing this thing going on. Okay, You have churches, just churches that are solely based on racial divide, and that's mostly what they're talking about. That and anti-Trumping and whatever it else. Listen, the bottom line is it isn't working. I had someone tell me, a Christian lady told me that when under Obama we didn't see these things. We didn't have this racism and this and that. And I expressly tell you all I disagree with your perception. The fact is that if we're having racism now, the racism was there before. Just that you're seeing it now, it's not, why are you getting on someone's case? It's like my wife does things like this. She doesn't like me to spray the bug spray because she says, do I have to live in this house smelling bug spray all the time? But then she don't like it when the flies are flying around. So, it's like this is what's happening with people. You don't want the bug spray. You don't want to put the light on the matter. You rather have administrations that cover up the truth than administrations that highlight and bring out the worst in society so that you can deal with it. Deal with the fact that nothing you did during the previous administration did anything to reduce, to eliminate racism. Truly, did nothing. It's still there. It was always there. It didn't become now. It was there before. Okay? So again, I mean, we can go over this over and over, generation past generation, again and again and again. Of course, you guys that disagree with me will die, and so will I, and they'll still be dealing with this in the future. Simply because you refuse to stop and think this through. We've already tried your way of handling it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I think it's time for you guys to stop and start thinking differently, and maybe we can eliminate this scourge once and for all. Alrighty. So we have other Business Insider. Seems like the place to go to. Biden urges governors to listen to Dr. Fauci as they reopen this state. That's fine. Dr. Fauci works with the president, with President Trump. That is nothing. Biden is saying nothing. He's just laying a fart. All right, U.S. coronavirus deaths passed the 80,000 mark. And there's going to be a lot more, so we'll make it. Gunman attacks Doctors Without Borders hospital in Kabul, Afghanistan. There you go, gunman. That's the way they're going to solve their problems over there. A lot of stuff happening here. Quite frankly, after that, I'm done with this morning news, so I've seen enough. All right, there's nothing here that's too much that's coming out at me, too much. So take a good look at those things today. Those are the headlines for today, and I'll see you guys later on. Thanks for dropping by. Have a great day, and think about the things that were discussed today. Take care.